Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. All right, everybody. Welcome to a rant video is just what this is going to be, so be prepared for that. As you know, well, maybe you don't, maybe you haven't been around super long, I really try not to rant about books that I don't like. That's not to say that never happens, because throughout, if you watch my weekly wrap-ups, you'll know that they pop up here and there. But part of the reason they don't pop up often is that I DNF really quickly. I also, at this point in my life where I read, 500 books a year, I have a pretty good idea if I'm going to like a book or not. I just know. And I'm not someone who's going to force myself to read things. Even if an author has sent me a book or I've signed up for an ARC, when it gets to the time to read it, if I'm not in the mood for it or it's just not going to work out, I will DNF that baby real quick. And when I DNF like that quickly, I usually don't even like officially put it as a DNF on anything. I will just move on from it. So on my spreadsheet of the year for my ratings, because I will have a master stats that I'll put out at the end of the year, I don't even have anything that is below 2 stars on here. I have, let's see, looking at it, I have 2 2.5 stars, 4 2 stars, and 9 DNFs is what I have on my spreadsheet. And then I have 23 3-star reads, really. The vast majority of my ratings are all 3.5 and above, because I just, I don't finish a book if I'm going to feel that way, and I try not to read books I don't think that I will like. So we're going to go through the books that I least like right now, and I'm going to let them have it, okay? I'm going to give my full scathing feelings about the ones I have scathing feelings about, and the ones that I don't, I'm just, I'll just tell you, I was like, I don't care, right? So if you see a book that you love, just move along. This in the sense that on my videos where I don't want to hear if you don't like a favorite, I don't care to hear how I'm wrong about any of these, right? I'm pretty firm about that. It's not that, your opinions aren't valuable, but they're not always valuable to me, right? And this is my channel, and this is my place, as you will, to share all of my feelings about it. Now, that being said, I'm not trying to personally dig at any of these authors. Nothing about my feelings is personal towards them. So if you see a favorite author, don't take it personally on their behalf. I don't hate the person. In fact, a few of these are from authors that I really, really love. And that's why I call it out when they give me a book that's shit. So anyway, not to say that I never do a rant on my channel. A few of these I'm going to talk about, I did rant about them when I read them. But I, by and large, try to keep things very positive. I am here to uplift the book community, specifically the romance community, because it gets enough shit shoveled on it from everywhere else. And I just don't like to play that. I have no interest in being a part of shitting on it. So that being said, I keep my own ducks in a row. If I see something I really don't like in a book, like, I'm going to call it out, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to dance around it as to why. So how this is going to work here, I'm going to go through the DNFs that I'm sharing. Now, I know I said I had 9 DNFs. I only have 5 that I'm going to talk about, right? Because a few of those ones, I don't even have anything to say. It might not even be that I didn't like something about them or whatever. It just didn't work out. And so we let it go, and we're like, okay, that one was not for Jen. But I have 5 of them that I at least have something to say about it, and I will. And then I have 10 books that these are my lowest rated books. So they were ones that I actually rated. So 6 of them are those books where I said they were 2.5 or 2 stars. And then a few of them are ones that were 3 stars, but I had significant issues with them that I want to rant about. So this is the video where I'm a negative Nelly, where most of the time I try to be a positive Polly. Is that what we're going to? I don't know. I just made that up. That's normally what I try to be about books, but this is the one where I get to get it off my chest. So get your tea or your drink. I'm actually not planning for this video to be too long, knock on wood, because I just don't like staying in a negative space. But we'll see. I might get real fired up again as I have in the past. So we'll see how it goes. All right, as I said, quickly going through the DNF ones. One of them I actually own, and this is actually part of the giveaway that I'm doing on my Patreon right now. I have some Patreon giveaways that they're open to the public. You just have to go to my Patreon, which is linked down below, follow me as a free member, and you'll get access to all the posts that I have available to free members. And there are currently 5 different giveaways listed, maybe more by the time you're watching this. And this duet is actually on there. So I don't have scathing things to say about it. It just wasn't my jam. And so I'm going to pass it on because these were books that were gifted to me by NerdFam, which is a fantasy romance PR company, as well as the author. And so I don't want to just like resell these or put them in a random thrift shop. I want someone who loves fantasy romance to give them a try because this could be your favorite duet. So all that being said, Death Shall Bow is the first in, I don't even remember what the duet's name is, but I was given this first book, Death Shall Bow, and then the next book, Death Shall like Reign or whatever, there's an art copy of that one. But so I was sent this one and then the art copy of the second one in a book box. And this one was supposed to be this like badass female who's trying to summon death and then like destroy death. And she ends up losing her friend to death. And so now she has to, I think, like enter a forced pact to save her confidant. And it says, but death forgot one very important detail: never underestimate the lengths a woman will go to protect what's hers. So I only got about 40 pages into this book, and I just really didn't like the attitude of the heroine. She was grating on my nerves a little bit. Now, I acknowledge the fact that 40 pages in, you know, there's character arc that can happen for sure. I'm sure the author was going to do something with that. I just didn't want to stick around for it, and because this was a small fantasy author, I didn't want to push through it and not like it and then have to, you know, give an honest review like I would. So I did tap out of this one, but there wasn't anything like inherently wrong with it. It just wasn't working with me. So yeah, maybe this will interest you. And that giveaway is going through Christmas, so you can enter it. And I mean, the books look really cool. And there's also some like stickers and stuff in the giveaway. So check that out. Another one from NerdFam that I got a good way into this one. And that was The Witch and the Wicked by Cade Patrick. There was a lot that was intriguing me about this one. This is kind of a dystopian fantasy world where the world's been like overtaken by like a great cold, and our heroine in the story is kind of living out on her own trying to survive. And she's been, I believe, like banished from one kingdom, and now she's like out in the wilds roaming around, and she ends up coming across this band of like this encampment of people who are surviving together. And our hero is a witch. Like the hero is a witch there, because witch, I guess, is like a type of power that you have, not, you know, gender specific or anything. And so he's able to do magic, and he's kind of a healer, I think. And so I had made it a good way into this book. Like I said, I was probably 100 and some pages into it, and I just, again, I wasn't connecting with the characters. This is a case of that, you guys, I love tough heroines who need their insides like prodded and poked to get to the good stuff. I'm all for it, but I also just still wasn't connecting with her when I was already at 100 or so pages in. The world was very confusing to me, and I was getting frustrated with it. So I was just like, and this book had a lot of cool things going for it. It had some interesting characters and dynamics and some really great diversity happening in it. And I just didn't want to finish it and then be like, I hated this by the time I pushed through it. So I DNF'd it. All right, Asking for Trouble by Gianna Darling. And guys, this one hurt, okay? I was looking forward to this. This is a novella within the fallen men world. And I mean, I've had some hits and misses with this, so it's not a surprise. Like, it's not necessarily a surprise I'd have a miss with it, because I never know. But the last book that came from her, not Dead Men Walking, but the one with Iceman and May in it. Oh, I forgot the title of it. I loved that one. That one came out, I think, around Thanksgiving or Christmas last year, and I gobbled that up when I was home for Christmas break. I loved it. Felt so good. And we'd waited such a long time for that book because of stuff that happened with Gianna's personal life and her social media and all these things. So I loved it. So I was very much looking forward to this novella, and she has a lot of books that came out this year and more. Like, she is on fire. But this one, diving into it, I don't know if my mind has just changed too much or what. I've always had a bit of an issue with her biker speak. It's one of the toughest hurdles for me to get through, because sometimes it's really hard to read when an author is phonetically changing things to show a certain feeling. I don't think that's inherently wrong, right? Like, think of it, my example of this is that when you read a Scottish hero, right, and they're using ye and lass and ken and all those things, right, to show you like they're saying the accent so that when you're reading it, you're seeing it. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the way the person is talking, like you're putting it in there, right? So that the person who's reading it is really immersed in it. And so I think those type of books for me are better when I can listen to them. Like, I love nothing more than listening to a Scottish romance being read to me. Okay. Hello, Outlander is my life, but a lot of other books too that have that. So anyway, this isn't Scottish. This is biker speak, and they're Canadian bikers, and the way that they talk and the nickname that the hero ended up with the heroine and used it in every time he spoke with her, that was like hooked onto it. This was a short book, and I made it like 70 pages in. I think it's like 200 and some, because it was a little longer than a novella, but I made it like 70 pages into this, and I could not take one more minute. I just couldn't, and I felt so bad because everyone was loving this, and I love her books, but something about just how much of that was put into this, maybe if I tried it again and listened to it, I would. But then also, once I DNF'd it, because I was like, I might have to wait for an audiobook for this one and I'll try again. But I read some reviews in it, and knowing what happens in that one, which I won't spoil here because I didn't finish it, so I can't speak to that. But from what people said in the reviews of what happens, I was like, and people who are loving it, they're saying what happens in it, and I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, me and Jenn are like, Jenn isn't gonna like, I'm not gonna like this. So I may just end up skipping Asking for Trouble, and I still will continue the series with the next big book in it, because out of the 7 previous, I've liked 4 out of the 7, you know, like I'm gonna keep going with them. This one was just too much, man. It was too much for me. Like, I get it. They have a certain way they speak, but I don't know. I'm torn, because I get it. If that's the way they talk, that's the way they talk, but I don't remember it being that painful for all of them. Maybe it's because in Dead Man Walking, Priest doesn't talk very much, so maybe that's why I don't notice it as much. I don't know. Anyway, we're moving on. But again, that wasn't like, that's just a personal taste. I couldn't do it. So yeah. Okay, Dark Restraint by Katie Robert. This was one I almost didn't put on because I didn't get super far. This is another case of just like, I put it on here because I keep saying this about her, but specifically this series, I don't jive with Katie Robert. In this series, the Dark Olympus series specifically, which was the series I was holding on to read because I liked Neon Gods and I liked Electric Idol and I liked Wicked, the threesome one. Like, I had liked basically books 1 through 4, and about at book 5 is where the turn started to happen for me. And I read 5 and I think 6, because I think this one is 7. I don't know, but either way, I know there was one of them that I gave like 3, and then there's one that was like 3.5, and then this one, which I was warned what the content was, but I was like, well, I'll get an ARC so that I don't have to buy it, and I tried it, and I was like, no. So this book is on here more to just say, like, I have officially like DNF'd this series, at least at this point. And that's not to say that once she finally wraps it up with book 10, which I am still really interested in that couple, I might come back to it. to see how it ends. But the other part of this then is that these are no longer ones you can stand alone to read, which is fine. Plenty of series do that, where once you get to a point, okay, they're no longer standalones because the plot is so intertwined with what's happening. And this is a political series, you know, as well as like there's spice and angst and romance all mixed in, but it is an inherently political series. Like, that's what it is. It is. And I don't mean political as in like our politics, though of course some of those are in there because Katie Robert is a pretty political writer, but it's just, that's what the story is. It's the politics of Olympus and people jockeying for position and murders and marriages for the, you know, like that's what the story is. It's a political story, political intrigue. And I liked that in the earlier ones, you know, like I said, with Hades and with Ares even, and like all those things. But it just got to the point now where I'm a bit exhausted with it. And when I tried to read Dark Restraint, I was really looking forward to Ariadne and the Minotaur. I really was. And so that's partly too why I tried that one. And right away I was like, nah, this one isn't going to work for me. So I'm done. I'm officially have DNF'd. I forced myself not to ask for any future arcs of it. I've said no, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait, and when it's done, maybe I'll check out that final book with Zeus and how that ends out, because I'm super intrigued by, at the end of all this, who Zeus will be, if it'll still be the same person, like, because that's the thing within this is, like, Zeus is, like, a position, right? Think of it as Zeus being, like, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge or whatever, right? It gets passed to whoever that is in the royal succession, right? But there's some positions you can kill the other one to get, and then there's some that you are like born into them. Like, anyway, it's interesting. So, okay, DNF that one. And then the last DNF I do have strong feelings about, and I almost wish I'd finished this one because I would have given it a 1 star. And that was Possession by BJ Alpha. I already ranted about this one a lot when I read it, so I don't know which weekly wrap-up I read it in, though, so I'll tell you real quick. This one was recommended because I love kink hunting. You guys know I love looking for kinky, specific things because I make a lot of my oddly specific rec videos, which have kinks and which have, you know, tiny little things that happen. And a few of the things I've been looking for is, one of them, I was looking for lactation kink. I was also looking for daddy kink. I still haven't been able to make a full lactation kink video. I've made it as a part of a video, but I wasn't able to, I haven't found enough that I actually liked the whole book to be able to do it. But this one, people had recommended, not only in my comments when I was asking for it, but also in my book recommendation form, which is always in my description. People had recommended this, and they listed all the kinks in it, and I was like, okay, we'll check it out. But this is a dark, dark, dark mafia romance, and basically it felt like the author just wanted to shove as many kinks in it as possible, while also writing one of the most unlikable heroes that I've read all year. I truly despised him, and not in the, like, you know, not in the Carter Mahoney way, where you despise him and then you kind of love him by the end, you know, like, or at least that's how I feel, right? This is... He does something so unforgivable to me that I was like, done. I was even okay with, like, he had basically kind of kidnapped this girl. He was forcing her to be his son's nanny. And then he also was like, you're also going to be my mistress and my nanny. Like, I'm keeping you. You're mine. I want. And so he's making her do that. And she is immediately, like, attracted to him. Even though he kind of kidnaps her and is forcing her into this. She's instantly wet for him whenever he looks at her. Gag me with a spoon. And then there's a scene where one of his men, who is not being sexually aggressive or pushing himself on her at all, I think she's just talking with this guy, who, by the way, is like her fucking bodyguard. The guy, like, put the guy on her as bodyguard. And literally, not a sexual act at all. I think he like, touches her arm, like he's talking to her, he touches her or something. And the dude shoots this man in the face in front of her and in front of his young son. He blows the guy's brains out for touching the woman in front of them. Now, I know this is called possession. Obviously, he's possessive, whatever. But, like, could he have taken a finger? Like, you know, could he have warned the guy, the next time you do that, I'll do this? No. No warning. This guy didn't even have an idea that what he did was over the line. He is, you know, in the room guarding this woman and the boy, and he touches her arm and he blows her head up. What would have happened, like, if that guy had to protect your girl toy? You know, if he's her bodyguard, he has to be able to touch her. And it wasn't sexual. It absolutely was not. The dude like touched her arm, and the dude is, oh, so crazy possessive, that he shoots the guy's brains out in front of his kid. See, I'm getting heated. So I DNF'd immediately right there. I had no interest in finishing it. It didn't matter how many kinks there was going to be for me to like this. I was offended by this book. So I DNF'd it so that I wouldn't have to rate it. But it would have been a 1 star, would have been a 0 star for me. There are just certain things that I can read, super kinky things, super fucked up things, but the logic has to work. You have to have created the character to the point where that logically works. And shooting the guy who's assigned as a bodyguard, basically, to your woman and child, who's going to want to guard them? Who's going to guard them for you? like if someone came at her, is he going to protect her? He'd be like, I'm not touching you. My boss is going to shoot me in the face. Like, what's he supposed to do? So it made no sense. And then on top of that it was in front of his kid, that he had no second thoughts about blowing a guy's brains off in front of a baby. Like, he's little. I think he's between 2 and 4. I can't remember, but really little. Like, no. So anyway, DNF that one, but it would be truly probably my only 1 star read this year if I did rate it. So, yeah. Okay, so those are all the DNFs. Let's get into the other ones here. Okay, let's go through these. These aren't in order of reading or in order of stars. I just went through all my spreadsheets to get the ones I rated lowly. And so here's where we are. So there was the bonus. I think this one I ended up at a 3 star. I've ranted about this one multiple times at this point as well. And in the survey, what's it called? I don't know what word I'm trying to say, but in the effort to keep this shorter, I won't go into it all again, but this was one that I was sent a copy of this from TL Swan's new publisher, and I wasn't planning to read the bonus because I have already decided I'm done reading her new books, right? I had already had this discussion, but what I say when I got this is that I have always wanted to be on her ARC team for years before. And so when they reached out and wanted to send me this beautiful pink book, I had to say yes. And also because TL Swan is such a big author, I know this wasn't a financial burden to them sending out ARCs, you know what I mean? Sorry. In the way that, like I said, I wanted to be very respectful of when a small author sends me an ARC, right? And that is why, I didn't want to cruelly rate this and I want it to end up in hands who will like it. That's important to me. That is how my, moral compass works, as it were. But anyway, whatever my reasons were, I did accept this ARC, right? I did. And I really, really tried to go in with an open mind. Gabriel Ferreira is one that we'd wanted to read for a long time. We've been teased about him for a long time. He's friends with some of the other characters. He's actually a rival to Miles Media, but he's friends with Grace. So he actually has showed up in the takeover. There's a lot of things I wanted to love, but I despise this book so hard. It has things I really don't like. And I've heard all of people's justifications, even my friends who are I think you're being a little too hard on Grace. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Is Gabriel perfect? No, he's a child. He is. But he's also a billionaire and he deserved to know about his kids. And there's this one night stand that they have. She's his assistant. She's been in love with him for ages. And he and her sleep together because she's going to be leaving his company. And so he sleeps with her. And then after they sleep together, she's like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't leave his company. And he's like, Grace, no, you can't stay. I wouldn't have slept with you if you were going to stay. And so she's offended and she's like, fine. So she goes and she takes this new job. And then she discovers she's pregnant. Okay, so this is a secret pregnancy because she comes back to town when she finds out, tries to do the right thing, tries to tell him, and, she gets shooed away by his new person. And then when he hears that she had wanted to meet with him, he couldn't take her call right that minute. He's also nervous why she wants to talk to him after a few weeks. But he tries to get back in touch with her. I think it's even that night or the next day, he was in a meeting. He didn't take it. He didn't realize how important it was. And again, he is being a bit of he doesn't want to talk to her. But he tries to see her, and she's already changed her number. She said she wanted to talk to him. She didn't get in to talk with him. She changed her number that quick. Doesn't tell him she's pregnant. Doesn't get in contact with him for 8 years is how long it takes before he sees her again. And at this time, he's now engaged to someone else, and he finds out about his twins that he has. And then he's like, you kept them a secret from me. And he's angry, and she's like, you didn't want me. And he's like, I didn't say I didn't want my kids, though. And you kept them a secret. Vince, I did not know this one was a secret pregnancy before I got it. I didn't know the tropes for it. There's no hint at what this one is going to be. I had no idea. And as soon as I got to the point where she kept it a secret, I'm like, oh no. Oh no, no, no. But I kept going because I was like, you know what? I'm in it. I'm going to finish it. That one was not for me. It didn't work. I didn't care for it. And it was officially the final nail in the coffin. And you know what? Let me grab it. It's right behind me. That doesn't affect how I feel about Tristan and Claire. I'll always love them, but not so much the other things. So moving along. Wow, I talked a long time already. We know how it is. Okay, I can talk quicker about Eternally Devoted though. This I was looking forward to, the third book in the Twisted Sister series by Daisy Jane, and this one was an MMF. I was really looking forward to that. I have liked Daisy Jane's other MMF that I've read. I usually like the kink that she puts in. This one, the sister in this one is a serial killer. And she ropes these two men into doing it with her. And I didn't really believe the romance for any of them. And I also thought this was such an abrupt shift in the series because the rest of the series, like, yes, the sisters are stalkers, but they're like friendly stalkers. And she's a murderer. And she drags these men into it, and I didn't care for it. So, moving on from that one. The Tryst by Sawyer Bennett. This was another one that just broke my heart. This was another third book in a series. This one was about, I don't even remember the characters' names. I know it was the Blackburn family. And this was a part of a series that was the Bluegrass Empire. I really loved the Feud and the Forbidden. And there's these two families that are like fighting each other. Well, in The Tryst, this one is actually a second chance romance. We were friends when we were young. We were going to be together when we were young. But my brother loved you too. So I had to break up with you so that he isn't mad at me. And then many years later, she's back in town because her father's died. And she's trying to make a go of her family business. And they start up again a friends with benefits scenario. And again, when they're ready to be together, the brother says to his brother that he's interested in her. And this time he's going to tell her. He's going to tell his brother that, no, I'm sorry you're attracted to her, but I've actually been into her and she's into me. And here's the spoiler. Here's the spoiler, guys. That brother then has a fight with the brother, storms off, drunk, driving, and he gets hit by someone else and dies. And he dies in the arms of his brother who had chased after him, because he knew it wasn't good. And he dies in his brother's arms, basically. And why this bothered me so much, and I shared this quite a lot, because it was set up with every expectation that that brother who died was going to get his own story. There wasn't hinted at who the heroine would be, but the way this was set up, there was 4 Blackburn children, and we had done 3 of their romances, and then this last brother who was, I think he was the twin of the one, right? That's why it was also such a big, I think they were twins. I don't remember. Maybe they weren't, but they were the closest two. There was the oldest brother, the youngest sister, and these two in the middle. And he dies. And then that is what our third act conflict is, because now, like, they were going to tell him and finally be together. And because the brother died, he's like, this is my punishment. I can't be with you. And that was our third act conflict. So not only was I upset that I hate when a death like that is used as a reason to keep people apart, also, it just felt like the story wasn't an HEA because we killed a brother that we had every expectation was going to get a romance. And I said this, I was like, maybe she had decided obviously she decided she didn't want to write a 4th book. I don't know if the series wasn't doing as well as she wanted to, but to kill him when we thought he was getting a story was just, I don't know if I'll ever trust Sawyer Bennett again is the thing. And that might seem dramatic, but I'm like, to me, yes, this single romance in this story had an HEA, but you have betrayed my trust that, like, well, what if I fall for a side character? You're just going to kill them? This isn't a mafia romance or a fantasy or a thriller where I should have to worry about other people. And especially the one that I was expecting him to get his romance. Like, I thought the fourth book, like, let me tell you my scenario. He was going to be mad at his sibling being with the woman that he thought he loved, but he would suck it up and he'd be like, you're right. You shouldn't delay your happiness for me. And then in the fourth book, he would redeem himself for being such a jackass because he would fall in love and he's like, you know what? I thought I loved her, but she's yours and I've found my person. Tell me how many series that's happened in before. That would have been fine. Like, they were making this brother kind of a jackass, the one who was mad, but that's fine because he could have had a redemption arc in his book and it would have been perfect. He could have started it out really jealous of his brother and still kind of angry at him. And then he meets the woman that he actually loves. And he's like, you know what? I wasn't really in love, but now I am. So anyway, that one is on my least like because it's not that her writing was bad or that, you know, the story didn't flow well. It's that I felt betrayed by the end. And I couldn't undo that. And again, I literally have no interest in reading her other books now because I felt betrayed. Like, there was no, and also, final thing too, there was no trigger warnings for this book. Not a single one. Not in the ebook and not in the beginning of the audiobook for a violent death on page. There was no, for like there was domestic abuse in here for the girl. She had child abuse, like none of that was listed either. And I hate when authors do that. Like, you don't have to say who the person is who dies. I get it if that's a spoiler for you, but you should list that there was a traumatic death on page because no warning for that. All right, Bride of the Shadow King. I'll go pretty quickly on this one. I reviewed this one just, I think, in November, so there should be a weekly wrap-up on this one. This is a reprint. Like, these are getting done with, is Random House doing these? Penguin Random House is doing these with their new Ace imprint, which is their fantasy romance one. But I signed up for this through Sylvia Mercedes myself because they were getting redone, and she kindly sent me this as well as some pretty artwork. This is the first in a trilogy, but I really didn't care for this. It involves a lot of keeping secrets. The entire plot is about one single secret, and I don't think it was paced very well. I think that it maybe could have been a duology if we shortened some of the stuff in here and then had like smushed this down. And so I'm really not super excited for another one. And this one, I didn't like either of the characters. Now, in the same way as I said about like Death Shall Bow, does that mean there won't be a good character arc later on? Maybe there is, but I didn't like the characters enough to do that. It was all very simple miscommunication. Yes, miscommunication can be a plot point. Absolutely it can. There are ways that it works. In this one, it was so blatantly obvious how easy the heroine could fix the pickle that she was in before the point that the hero is angry at her. She could have fixed it on 10 different occasions, but she didn't. And so now I think she's stupid, and I also don't care if she gets an HEA, and that's a problem. So, told you I was harsh in these, so we're pushing right along. Okay, By Frenzy I Ruin by Cora Riley. Yeah. I'm not with this one. No, I don't want to. I'm so sick of being disappointed. This is another author that the nail is in the coffin for me, and it's another one in the way of T.L. Swan, where it doesn't take away from the fact that this author has written some of my favorite books of all time. If you watch my video, my favorite Mafia romance of all time, Twisted Pride, Twisted Emotions, they will never be less. I actually reread those books this year as well. I annotated them for some people, and same goes. Like, nothing takes my enjoyment away. They still hold up for me. They're very simple stories in the grand scheme of things these days, but to me they're also staples of the Mafia genre. Like, they just are. And I don't know what the actual fuck this book was. Okay, I didn't give this a 1 star or anything because I looked back at my review while I was writing these down, and I said, well, it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it would be, but it was still pretty bad. Okay, it was still pretty bad. And that was also reiterated to me when I reread Twisted Pride, because Ramo is he's a psychopath. He is crazy. He does these wild things to prove his point. He's violent. He's cruel. He's these things. But he also uses his brain very well. He's very intelligent. He thinks 3 steps ahead. So things that seem impulsive to us, he has thought them through. He's thought of what the possibilities will be, and he's willing to accept whatever action will happen, or he's going to do what he has to do to manipulate said things to turn out how he wants. But in By Frenzy I Ruin, I understand it's called frenzy. Like, I get that. So it's not supposed to be predictable, this or whatever. However, Nevio is stupid in his frenziness, okay? And it's so heavily trying to be like the Joker. Like, the page imagery is like Joker imagery. He has tattoos that say like ha 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 ha, like the Joker or whatever. But I did not believe Aurora would fall for this man. And the foolishness and the cruelty that he shows, not just to her by the way some things go, but the way it could tear apart their families, because this is Fabiano's daughter and, you know, Ramo's son. And, you know, Ramo wants to have his sons back, but like Fabiano's been one of his men for what, at this point, almost 30 years or so, or 25 years or so. And Nevio just recklessly fucks with it. Now, Aurora isn't perfect either. She's a pushover, and she gets herself into situations that she walks blindly into them, doesn't think about it. She also kind of sort of sexual assaults Nevio because he's very drunk, and she takes off her clothes and lays on top of him and then is like, he had sex with me and didn't even care. And I'm like, bitch, he doesn't know his own name. So in my opinion, she sexually assaults him. And then there is a accidental pregnancy in here, and she is like upset he isn't gonna help with it. Like, or no. Sorry, let me back it up. Anyway, okay, fix that. So, and then there is a child from a different hookup he's had, and he just leaves that child in Aurora and his family's hands and fucks off to places unknown. And it's a hot mess, man. The whole thing was. And again, I know it's called By Frenzy I Ruin. It does follow the title, so I'll give her that. But the things that bugged me were deeply established characters that she had acted completely out of character, you know, including Ramo and wow, his name just went out of my head, but the brother, Chiara and Nino. Like, Nino and Ramo, no way in fuck did they let Nevio get away with this. They didn't let Adamo get away with it. They didn't let Adamo get away with the things that he did. And he just let Nevio do it. And, you know, there is a scene where he's like, did I let my son... I think this is in an earlier book, maybe in Greta's book, where he's like, have I let him get too far? And it's like, yes, you fucking did. You wouldn't let anyone else do this. You have created this. You let him get there. And the man that Ramo is, I don't believe he would have let this happen. There's also, like, there's so many things wrong. I'm gonna stop. We're moving on. This book, again, was the final nail in the coffin. I've said that before about Cora Riley, but this is really true. And to prove it, I'm not putting anything on blast, but I've been, like, asked to read her standalones coming and, like, to be a part of some, and I'm like, I'm sorry. It is an honor to me in some level that I've been asked to be a part of it, but you have, you know, I didn't say this to them, but I'm like, you have... Her stories have killed any interest I have in continuing to talk about her books now. I'll continue to recommend those older series because I still think they're a great entry point into Mafia romance. They are definitely showing their age at some point, but they still are a great entry point. And still, all those books that lead up to Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride are worth it to me. That is their purpose to me, is to set the stage. Then with the Sins of the Father series that she did, all those, 15 books of work that she did are like washed out in the sea for me if you read the Sins of the Father series, because the parents are completely neutered. they don't have any force. We can't hate the parents because we need their HEA to happen too. So we can't destroy any of that. So that's just why second gen series are so hard to do in a Mafia world specifically. They're very hard unless you're going to do something where you spin them off into, let's say a Mafia university or like think of how Rena Kent has done a second generation or Sophie Lark has done a second generation. Are those perfect? No, but she's found a way to tell stories within those that the parents still act like themselves. And I do not believe that these do. And that's the last time that I need to talk about this one because it's done now. It's done now. Okay, The Last Ride by Anya Summers. This was the first book I read of 2024, and it was a 2-star read. I really won't rant about this one because I don't care enough, but I was bummed out because this one was one, it was sent to me by the author when I still had a P.O. box back in the day. I was super intrigued by it because it is a biker motorcycle club made up of ex-Navy SEALs. It's literally called Seals on Wheels. But the premise of this series is that they have a brother who had killed himself, and to make up for it, these guys are going on a last ride and going to see like people that were significant to this brother who had ended his life and like making amends almost for this guy. And sure, that sounds cool and everything, but I just didn't like how this hero treated this woman and I didn't like the suspense part of this. And I just it just wasn't working for me at all. And I was really bummed about it because I like Navy SEALs and the idea of them being in a motorcycle club I was interested in, but it was a fail. Seeds of Malice by Maggie Cole. I'm not even going to get into this one. I'm not. I know I've just said that about whatever, but I was disgusted by this book. Sorry. It was so bad. And it does live up to the premise that she writes about it, but I've said this again and again. I don't like a hero who's cruel for the sake of cruelty. I like, if it's a psychopath, I want at least his internal reasoning to be there. If he becomes obsessed, I want to at least feel the why. And this story is literally about a rich boy and his sister and friend who like to fuck with innocent people. And he decides he wants to do that with the new gardener to his family property. That's why it's called Seeds of Malice. He has a beautiful daughter, and he uses his power and influence to suck her into his world and basically like get her to let him have a threesome or foursome. Get her to let him fuck her and other people fuck her just because they can. Like, literally it was like a twisted Gossip Girl type of shit, where you had a very, very twisted version maybe of like Chuck Bass, who just wanted to see how far he could push someone and see if he could talk her into an orgy with like him and his sister and friend. And he's so mean to her. There was not, and the heroine was practically like, she's an adult, but her mindset is like she was a naive 14-year-old. So that just made it feel icky. And yeah, she used a whole bunch of sex in it. And then I didn't finish this duet. And the people who did finish it, I haven't heard great things. So yeah, which this is another one that was very sad because Maggie Cole has written some of my favorite books. And I also really like this author as a human. But I don't know what she was thinking with this duet. And I mean, this duet didn't do well. So sorry, not great. The Parolee by Kate Riven. This was just on my vibe. I had so many people recommending Kate Riven for her taboo stuff. She writes the familial love trope, if you would. This is a full-blooded brother and sister, I think, and he gets out of jail, and then she's like engaged to someone else, and he's like, no, she's mine, and he literally takes her and rapes her into submission to being his plaything, his sister. And people want me to read The Ritual, which is like a dystopian one. I have no desire to ever read another Kate Riven after this, okay? I'm sorry. I don't mind a familial love if it's done right. You know, there are books that have that I like. But just because I have read that doesn't mean that I'm willing to just read everything that has it in it. Like, I need there to be an extremely good reason for it. I want to believe the love so much that these two can't, like, something's happened to their minds and their hearts and their souls that, like, this person who, even though they're related to them, they can't be with anyone but them. Like, I don't just want to read a story for the sake of it being taboo, okay? Will I recommend books that are just taboo in my videos so that other people who want that can? Yes. And I'm not shaming anyone who wants to read it just because they want to read a twisted tale. Absolutely. Go for it. Power to you, sis. But to be honest, I feel like a lot of people recommended this one to me because it was just twisted. And I'm not in that zone. And so I tried this one. I bought this one. This author got banned on Amazon, which I don't know what the fuck she was thinking, that she thought she could stay alive on Amazon when she didn't make them step siblings or half siblings. They are full-blooded brother and sister, and it says so in the description. Like, honey, you can't put that on Amazon. No, you can't. Like, Amazon still has rules. So do we have to agree with them? Maybe not, but you can't. So her books are available on her website and then on Eden Books. So you can go buy these there if you want to, and feel free to check it out. I know a lot of people love The Ritual, but I'm not interested. So there we go. All right, then the last two, get through these real quick. There was Fuck It by Selena Moore. This is a married couple who decide to experiment and then bite off a bit more than they can chew. I didn't care for this couple, and I thought this was going to turn into an MMF. Like, I thought that's where it was going, that we were going to invite this person in, but no. They have a fling with her boss where they do like a cuckold scene, and then she ends up in an affair with the guy that she had the cuckold scene with, and then by the end of the book, she still stays with her husband, and so it was just about this awkward fling she had with the guy, and they don't end up together, and he doesn't join their marriage. So I was like, what was this? So anyway, and then there was Music of the Night by Angela Ford. This was a Phantom of the Opera retelling that I read for the Phantom of the Opera readathon, and it was just okay. Not the worst thing read, but well, what did I say? Just okay? It wasn't that okay. That's what I mean to say. It was very hard to follow. I didn't really care for the characters. It was a little too on the nose at some points, and I was pretty bored. So there, that's what I mean. To say it was like just okay, like, no, I didn't really like it. So, okay, those are all the books that I DNF'd or gave 3 or less stars to. Not all of the books I gave 3 stars to, but I gave 3 or less to all of these ones, and but it is all of my 2 and 2.5 stars, and there was 4 3-star ones in there. So, yeah. This is my altogether rant in here. Again, I'm not attacking you if you liked any of them, and please don't try to make me feel guilty about not liking one, but if you didn't like one of these, this is a free space down below for you to rant about them too. So if you liked any of these, maybe don't go into the comments, because people are allowed to rant here if they want. You can tell me what your least favorite book of the year was, but yes, this is the place you can do it. That's what I'll say. Even if it's one that I loved, you can say it, because I opened the door with this one. We'll just say that. This is the video. You can put all the dislike stuff you have, but for the rest of my videos, please, like, don't do that. This is the place for the ranting. Let's try to not do it in other places. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys for sticking around, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.